Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Ms. Texas Show. Melissa Santana here, your co-host of this wonderful show that we have. But we know we're nothing without you all. So thank you all for tuning in and paying homage to our lovely show here. With that, we do have a guest today who was so nice, came on twice. And so this is actually our guest second time being on the show. But before I introduce her, I want to officially welcome you all to the show. And so this is the Miss Texas Show. Welcome, welcome. It's where we showcase life in Texas and beyond and highlight amazing survivors of traumatic events, family violence, sex trafficking, sexual abuse, and community leaders who share community resources. Under our segment, Military Time, we invite military and veterans who would like to share with us their experiences both during and after their military service. We run this segment in partnership with the National Veterans Chamber of Commerce. We would like to invite those who have overcome traumatic events and would like to share and who are ready to not only share, but ready to help others. Under our Beauty for Ashes segment, we invite fellow pageant sisters, winners, nominees, artists, musicians, actors, models, and dancers, as well as survivors who are now ambassadors for the cause to share with our audience their lives and the impact they have made. Our show runs twice a month, so if you would like to become a guest on our show, please email us at msusatexas@gmail.com, which is MSUSATEXAS@gmail.com, or you can message us on our Facebook, which is also at Ms. USA Texas. You can also make a donation at www.hopepyxglobal.org to help us help more people. And so, with that being said, speaking of helping people, there's definitely no one better fit to do that than our lovely guest today, Bailey Smith, because Bailey is definitely a person who helps a ton, helps a lot of people. Because in case you did not know, actually had her first, if you did not had a chance to watch the first interview on the Miss Texas Show, it was November 11th, 2020. And during that time, she did share a bit about her story, which we'll get into a little bit of background on, and of course, share about life beyond. But she is also a mother of three boys, domestic violence survivor, and advocate. In the last 15 months, she has continued her journey both in advocacy and mental health. She has helped children with their mental health and has gone on to do a lot of things that she has hoped to do and more, including starting her own podcast with the help of two of her prior co-hosts. And so it's called the Never Give Up Show, which airs every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. She also has begun writing her own book with the help of a writer, and it's partially her story, but it's also intertwined with a comprehensive guide to recognizing and escaping narcissistic abuse. And the most rewarding thing so far has been joining forces with some of the most incredible and influential advocacy groups, one of which is FACTS, Families Against Court Travesties, PBS Now, and Florida Protective Parents. She is on the legislative committee and she's a court watcher for FACTS as well as for Florida Protective Parents. And she was involved in getting awareness for November to be officially recognized as Family Court Awareness Month. She was also honored to receive the proclamation for her city by the mayor. And she has been helping other protective parents deal with a very corrupted family court system in assisting the community we have become. She is fortunate to have continued advocating, meeting incredible people, and most of all, being able to help others, like we said. So she definitely fits right in, perfect person to be able to speak on these wonderful topics and also advocate for these causes that deserve such great attention. So like we said, back in 2020, which was the year that shaped the world for a lot of us, it was definitely a tough year, let alone if you're a survivor of something as well, of some kind of like traumatic event. So Bailey is definitely someone who graciously offered her time back then to tell us a little bit about her story, during which she did share about how it impacted her both positively and negatively, while also carrying the weight of being a mother as well. She's also here to tell us about the life after that. But of course, Bailey, I wanted to be able to give you the opportunity to share with us a little bit about that, like just background a little bit on it in case viewers are meeting you for the first time today. And this is their first time tuning in. If you can give us a little bit of background on that, but also life after, how things have been going, especially since it is a new year. So with that, Bailey, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's I always enjoy being um, on Miss Texas show. I had her on my show recently, and she does amazing things. So I always enjoy collaborating with fellow advocates. For those that have not seen the prior YouTube that I did with Miss Texas, I had shared my domestic violence a portion of my domestic violence story of 21 years being married to a narcissistic sociopath, um, and not even knowing I was an abused wife. And when I finally, when things happened and I finally realized this is not okay, um, and I got out, or I tried to get out. You know, getting out is, they always say, is the most dangerous. And so I had a lot of post-separation abuse. And unfortunately, when there are children involved, it's child abuse. And so my children literally lived in a war zone, even during our separation time. My ex-husband did go to jail for a short time, um, and um, and then he left the state on probation, so he's not here. Um, does that mean that he doesn't stalk me and harass me? I mean, whatever. We won't even go there. But what I have done, I've continued to help my children with their mental health issues. It's an ongoing journey, and the best part of it for me was that I got healthy, and then I was able to help them, and I continue to help them. And not only that, I have learned so much in the last year and a half. Um, so much information that, or year and change. I've just come across so many incredible fellow advocates and so much new information on on trauma and the after effects. So I've been, focusing on that. But another thing you know, I that really resonated with me, that I really wanted to do, was prevent what my children have had to go through after going through so much trauma and being victims of abuse. Um, was, like I said, to help others with younger kids that were going through high conflict divorces, to help them, um, so that these children don't end up in my kids' situations. Unfortunately, it's a vicious cycle, and breaking that cycle is something that's so important to me, and in my lifetime, it's something I want to see. Um, Along the way, I have, I've always heard about. I've heard over time through having my show. Different people who have had high conflict divorce in family court, and I have started seeing so much of the corruption on the inside, um, that you know that became something very important to me in my advocating in the last, I would say, year or so. um, so the book, I never thought I would actually even get to where I am. It was like a dream. And, Marianne Petrie is one of the most amazing advocates out there. And um, I met her also on the prior platform that I was a co-host. She was a guest, and that's how I met Eileen. Um, and then when I had my own show, I invited all of them to be on my show. So we became very close and we're good friends. And I actually introduced her to Eileen, I believe. And I said to her, I want to write a book, because she had written a book. And I said, I just don't think I could do this myself. If I really want to get. So she introduced me to somebody who helped her publish her book. And she's an incredible woman. And we really started really working on it. I'm not going to promote it too much, because we're a little bit at a slight standstill, because unfortunately my writer had a death in the family, and she took a couple of weeks off. So but it is a book um, about part of my story, and like you said, it's intertwined with, um, it's a manual for, all about narcissism, and um, and this woman is so amazing. She's come up with all these ideas in middle that she wants to put in there because there's so many books out there and about so many same topics, and we want it to stand out. So um, I hope it will be a success. I hope it will be a learning book for many, many, many people. And I always said that, when I'm out there advocating, um, I want to reach at least one person, or whenever I do a show. Um, and I've been lucky enough to reach many. And so basically, you know, with the knowledge that I have from my own experience and the knowledge that I've accumulated over time, I have been able to help others, and was, that was a whole reason to start advocating, because you always have to make sense of why you went through something so horrible and why your children are suffering. And and besides becoming a big, huge family and a community, um, when you start to really help people, it becomes it's very rewarding when somebody sends you a message, thank you, or they call you because they want to talk, or whatever it is, so, you know, that's really why I ended up starting my own show. And because I wanted to be able to do it my way. And the topic, I wanted it to be very broad. It's called the Never Give Up Show. Um, and I always say abuse and beyond. So it's not just, it's become also a tool to help with the advocating that, or the organizations that I've been involved with, that I started to be involved with, and helping those people use their voices. Um, so it's that's really been a very rewarding part of my of the last year since I started it. And again, like I said, my book is it's, I would say, in the middle. So I'm not going to talk too much about it right now. But so basically, with through my advocating, um, I come across all these unfortunate stories, and there was one particular story that happened very close by, um, and it was a little boy that was murdered by his father. Unfortunately, there's so many of these stories happening right now. And, I have I have constantly talked about wanting to see change happen with our judicial system, whether it be with the police, who were um, my biggest problem. They were not helping me. So, I didn't have a voice because I didn't have a public voice out there, like TV voice, because there was no death. People don't want to hear your domestic violence story unless somebody dies, God forbid. I mean, I make a joke out of it, and I always say, okay, so I'll be dead, and then they'll make a law in my name, But it's not funny. That's unfortunately what happens. So I reached out to this young mom, and I said, look, I know this is not a great time, and I know you're mourning, but you have a voice right now. And when you're ready to use it, I want to be there. So through her, I got connected with some incredible people, um, that, and it's only been a couple of months actually, because the death of her child was in May of last year. And I must have reached out to her maybe the next month. And then it was a slow process, but I got linked up with the senator's office in Tallahassee, and she introduced me to the women from FACTS, Families Against Court Travesties. And whenever any established and fat, court watchers, which is one of the things that they do, have been established since the 1990s. And I was actually just talking to one of the board members, and she told me that it started in Houston, Texas. There was a woman in Houston, Texas that started it. And so, and I never heard of court watchers before. Yeah, so it's incredible to find out all these things out there. And I know personally that when you go through trauma or a tragedy or divorce, if you don't have a support system, you're not getting through it alone. You can't. It's impossible. And I talk about that in my first interview with you guys, with Eileen, with Miss Texas. And I was very lucky. I found great help, um, therapy, and I got a therapist, and my family was there for me. And then I started, and then at some point down the road, when I felt healthy enough, I was able to start advocating, and then you become a family. So you always have, you if you if so, but there are people out there that don't have that, and so court watchers basically, what they do is they go into a courtroom, and now they're doing a lot of zooming, and they wear white and they wear their tags, and they basically watch what goes on, because down here in Florida, it's not mandated to record what goes on in family court. It's a bill that we're actually working on right now. It's up in legislation right this minute as we speak. Um, it is mandated in some states, maybe more than just some, I don't know. But in Florida, it is not. And there's a reason for it, because there's a lot of corruption. And so these women, some of them, maybe not all, are started down here, I don't know, but they've been doing it for over 20 years. And um, they are they go they go into a courtroom, they take notes, they will watch how the judge does things, um, and they rate the judge. Like, there's a whole form you fill out after. And because I've been doing a couple, um, the last couple of months, and I've done prior ones for people that have been on my show that asked me to watch anonymously. I didn't even realize I was actually court watching. But they help when it comes to judges getting reelected. They play a very big role. And um, you know, I always say the only way we're going to get change in our corrupted world or our corrupted system is with people like us using our voices and reaching the public, because we're the voters, and the people of the public are the voters. And there are so many people, even divorced people, that don't even realize what is going on, because things for them are smooth. And and people are so naive to what's really going on in this world. It's absolutely incredible. So I got involved with them, um, and it's been extremely. They become a family, and we are really working on a lot of different things. But I'm gonna let you ask me questions now because I've talked so much.
Oh, no problem. No, I always love to, be able to give space, because I mean, you definitely dropped a lot of great gems. So I mean, of course, I didn't want to interrupt flow, but I appreciate it definitely so much. And I actually, appreciate that, you did give us that great journey, because it was such a great reminder. Because I definitely feel like we said, pandemic year, we all know, viewers, that was a like a very, transformative year, but also a hard one, really. Like it was definitely difficult for many reasons. But like you mentioned, I think what was interesting was you mentioned it very, very briefly, but that our, abusers do have these different tactics that they use. You actually, interestingly enough, use the word stalking. And for me, I actually like lit up when I heard that, only because, unfortunately, not because it's a great thing, but because, with I know the show might not be airing in January, but January is not only
It's
human
National,
trafficking,
yeah,
right, human trafficking awareness month, but it's also stalking awareness month. And so
National Stalking Awareness Month. Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
absolutely. Yeah. And but I do think that it's the one that doesn't always go, because I even worked at a rape crisis center. And so human trafficking kind of got a lot. And then not that it shouldn't, because it is that big of an issue that deserves that. But then stalking doesn't always also get that same, and so especially because it's during the same time. And so it's like, no, stalking is a very big issue as well, unfortunately. And it is something that is incredibly dangerous that happens, and it's for everything that you mentioned. Domestic violence already is a very serious issue, because someone is literally getting abused on a regular basis, on a constant basis, and some of them don't even know that the abuse is happening, because it's coming from someone that they're in a relationship with, could be coming from someone else that they know as well, but either way, it's someone that unfortunately they trusted and who took advantage of that is doing this. But for the abuse to then continue after the relationship ends with stalking is just incredible. Like, it just means that that person is like, you know what, no, I'm not gonna go ahead and release you back to the world. I know you're trying to like leave me, but I'm actually going to go ahead and make that more difficult by continuing to reach out to you, whether that's via email, whether that's phone calling you, whether that's harassing you, whatever it is. But I just want you to continue to remember me, even though you're breaking ties. So that's just what's so unfortunate about it, because you develop the strength and the courage to leave, and then that person is still there. Like, they're still making their presence known. They're still trying to exert that. I love that you're nowhere near that anymore. I mean, I know that you're like on the other side, at least, in that respect. I get that you're still, and we all bear those emotional scars also, even if we're able to like never see the person again, which isn't always possible. You still bear that. And like I said, I am glad you're on the other side of that, but I just think it was incredible that you shared that, because I think that's something that doesn't always get that recognition and awareness. So that's incredible. But I also think what was incredible was you did all that as a mom, so it's like, this is already a big deal for anybody to deal with in general. And if there is anybody, of course, as always, who finds himself in a situation, we're here to tell you it's never easy. But if you're also someone who is in a tumultuous situation, in your family or what have you, or if you might find yourself to be a fellow parent, please know that you're clearly not alone. You know what I mean? So like, we can tell you. And actually, the reason why domestic violence, I know you and I have never met, is dear to my heart, because that's the one that I also survived. And also being a mom, I agree, it wasn't an easy decision. I mean, of course, it would have been nicer to just stay together and be a family and not be out here doing this on my own. But I definitely think that is just, it's all the more reason to do it. And I think you highlighted that when you said that, because you've taken ownership of your son's mental health, and so you've been doing that. And so like, I'm also, and in the process, I definitely want to get back to your advocacy work too. But real quick, I definitely want to ask, like, what has been the most helpful? I mean, it's probably been trial and error, right? Because with kids, everything is trial and error. There is no manual on parenting. But I'm curious, like, what has been effective for you, like with helping them with their mental health, and all that. Like, what have you been using? Like, what is good? What have you tried again? All those things.
Well, it all depends on the ages. My children are um, young men now, um, and a teenager. So there's always been therapy available. Um, and my middle son always ran away from it. He never wanted to deal. So it finally caught up to him. I would say about a year and a half ago, and that's been very, very difficult. Right. I would say about no, right after I did the 2020 show, probably. Um, um, he ended up coming home, and he was living in New York. He had a job, and he kept coming back and forth, and his anxiety was off the charts. And I just tried everything, every resource possible, every kind of therapy that was out there, until I had to this year, well, in the last couple of months, I shouldn't say this year, last couple of months, put him into a partial hospitalization, and by his choice and him wanting to. And then now he's doing outpatient. He's at home, and it's very horrible to see your children suffer so much and have to go through that. But if I don't, like, I feel like I was always a fixer, and I want to see my kids happy and healthy, because I can never fully move on with my life unless there there's a change, like my children are in a healthy, happy place. And, you know, for one of my kids, yes, that I see a big, he's doing well, and he's not at home anymore. And for my middle son, who was living his life and traveling and going to school abroad and doing all kinds of things, all of a sudden it just hit him, and we've had to just step back. And he's finally dealing, and it's very, very hard to see a child of, I mean, a young man that should be out there living their life, feeling, finally feeling and dealing with their pain of what happened. So that's been very hard for me the last year plus. And my youngest is having the moments, he's finishing up high school, and, hopes to start college in a month or two. And, um, you know, he's at an age, and it's a very tough age, and, you know, being abandoned is very difficult, especially at that age, but starting to realize it and realize how it's impacting you. So it's very hard to see, and I don't always handle it the best way, and I take accountability for that. But I'm always learning. I'm always taking whatever course I can get my hands on to to try and help them. And, you know, so that's really, that part of it is takes up, a big part of my life. But at the same time, you know, I'm very into my self-care and doing things for myself. And those things I'm very selfish about, because that's how I get through, my days. And that's how I'm able to help them. And then as far as you know, my mental health, I mean, thank God I have my outlets, and I've got my tools, and I still have my therapy. I have my shows and my people, and all my advocating, and all those things are great outlets for me. So that's been very helpful.
Absolutely. I couldn't get the button at first to be able to talk, but I agree. And I think the best thing I loved about what you said is that it's the best way for you to be able to be there for them is to also be there for yourself. I mean, really, you have to show up for yourself first, and then being able to, and I think that's why, and I love that you said you're selfish about it, because I feel like that's sometimes what happens when we talk about self-care, is that it comes off like this thing. Absolutely, that's selfish. But it's like, it's actually not, it's not selfish to want to be able to like take care of yourself, to be able to want to like be able to put your needs first and be able to do all these things, because you have a lot of these responsibilities. And sometimes maybe not just as a parent, right? Maybe we're talking to people out there who it's a lot to go to work, to show up as a daughter, to show up as a son, to show up as, as a friend. Like, we have a lot of roles that we take on. And so we got to be able to make sure that we take care of ourselves as well first, and make sure that we can be there for others as best we can. But I think too that I actually love that you mentioned that it wasn't one easy fix then with your kids. Clearly, we're still figuring
No,
it out. Right.
it's a journey, just like it is for
Absolutely.
me. You know,
Right.
we have our PTSD, we have our triggers. It's lifelong journey.
Right.
And you know, you know, for kids, it's going to be a lifelong journey. But if they don't get the help that they need, then we're starting another vicious cycle of unhealthiness. And that for me is where I want to see the change in this world, because they're our
Absolutely.
future generation,
Right.
and getting back to, the murder of that little boy. I have gotten to know his mother, and she's on a rampage to get laws changed. And there's many of the things that she went through with the boy's father, that, with the police and the court system, and not giving restraining orders and things like that, and not taking, Florida, they made, it's not a law, but they've created a 50-50, with a newborn, with a baby, and it's abnormal. And, you know, people don't see the biggest problem, and this is what our Florida Protective Parent Group is working on, is that, you know, um, if a woman has been abused, okay, if there was domestic violence, then, and especially if there are children around or witnessing it, or especially, but and again, I always want to say this, it happens with men being abused by women, because abuse is not just physical, it's also verbal, mental, emotional, financial, and that's called coercive control, which we're trying to get um, into this Grayson's bill. It's been passed in Connecticut, California, Hawaii, and I'm not sure where else. And New York just passed something, Kara's law. I'm not exactly sure. It's also about protecting children. Another child murdered by her father. And so, you know, so basically, so when you're dealing with children that are dealing with their traumas, okay, and it's called ACEs, adverse childhood experience and trauma. When you and I've just really started learning a lot about it. um, you don't want to see other, like when you see other people going through a high conflict divorce, and you see all this corruption, all this stuff, nobody's really thinking about those children, because you're fighting the healthy parent, or you're giving the child to the unhealthy parent 50-50. So what are you doing? You're really just creating another cycle of all of this. So that's what we want in Grayson's law. So if a man or a woman, okay, because the protective parent could be either one, is abusive to the spouse, it's considered domestic violence and domestic abuse, and child abuse. That means that they are going to be abusive in some way or another to the child. So that, how you protecting the kid? You're not. So that's one of the laws that we are trying to get passed, because and for our judicial system to recognize that abuse is beyond physical, and the worst abuse is verbal, mental, emotional, manipulation, coercive, which is all under the umbrella of coercive control. So, and I could say all of this happened to me. So, I know firsthand and I see the damage. So, you know, so that's what we're trying to get people to see and to recognize and to put it into a law, and that our family court system will have no choice, because if there's proof of domestic violence, that means that the other parent is not okay to have that child 50-50. And I'm witnessing just horrific cases, and it's just like, it's mind-boggling. And people say, oh well, the one that has the most money, the one that could pay off this one and that one. Some of these people, some of the women are big professionals. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. And not only that, they're advocates like me in this Florida Protective Parent group. They're advocates while they are still dealing with this stuff, whether it's the 50-50 custody and they're fighting in the court system, or they're still getting their divorces. And they feel that having the group of people as their fellow advocates and helpers in what they're dealing with, it gives them the strength to be able to help fight and help each other. Because I know, I look back what I was dealing with post separation. There was no way I could do my advocating. There was no way. I was just trying to survive every single day. And so I look at some of these women, and to me, they're just unbelievable. And like this Grayson's mom, she just was in legislation yesterday, speaking up in front of because right now we're in the middle of legislation, and we're trying to get the bill passed. And she's been speaking, out there using her voice and speaking to the public, and because of her, we started the whole, well, because of um One Mom's Battle, who's in California. um Tina Swinton, she started this family awareness month last year, and it was approved in California and a couple of other states. And then so then we took on, which she helped us and with our group, and we went to county by county, and we went to the mayors and we asked them, and obviously Allie had the voice to do it, and she helped get it started, and then we all chipped in and all went, to whatever people. Some people went to many different counties, and you know we we're hoping that it will become official and be signed off. I think it's close to being signed off as official. November will be Family Court Awareness Month, just like January is National Stalking Awareness Month, and um, October is, sorry, December um,
Uh,
October is Domestic Violence
Violence
Awareness Month,
Awareness Month. Yes,
and then
ma'am.
Family Court Awareness Month is November. So yeah, so basically this is what, you know I got involved in all of this all because of a little boy's death, and it's very unfortunate, and I pray that the next, because it passed the first round in the Senate, so, and unanimously, and um it has to go to the second round next week, and that's going to be tough because it's a judicial, I think it's called. Um, so, we're doing a lot of phone calls to all the legislators and senators, and, you know, just constant, bring it out there, put the attention out there. So, and we've kind of taken different organizations and kind of are all working together. Although the family, facts, Families Against Court Travesties, they they're doing a lot of this family court stuff for many, many, many years, and they've been very, very helpful to the younger crowd that have come on with the Florida Protective Parents. And we are hoping, Families Against Court Travesties, there are plenty across the worldwide, but not enough, and we're hoping that we can reach other states that, you know you need a couple of people to come together, and they could reach out to family, and I'll give you all the websites that you could post. Families Against Court Travesties, um, their website, their Facebook and their website, if they want to learn how to get this started in different states, because again, we have to come together as community. I don't know if today you were able to get on to VAWA, VAWA, Violence Against Women Act. They had across the United States a rally on whatchamacallit, um, on Facebook, on Zoom, and people from all over the United States were on there, and Angelina Jolie was speaker, and a bunch of senators got on and spoke, and they're fighting for against sexual abuse and domestic violence, and bringing awareness, and they want to get certain bills passed, and that's the only way things are going to get done, because on the inside there's so much corruption going on, and there's so much money that's being funneled from different hands. You have lawyers in cahoots with lawyers, guardian lights, and counselors and judges. Everybody's all is all connected. They're like an organization, and you know So from the inside, it's not going to change because it's too much money. And it's like it's funneled all the way up to the government, all the way down to the police, and all the way around, and people don't care. Nobody cares about the safety of children. And that's really what the biggest thing is the safety of our children. And yes, safety of women, safety of if a mom's not safe, a child's not safe. Um, so just the constant bringing attention and constant going out there and talking about it, and like what what Eileen Miss Texas does, going out there doing her shows and her advocacy work and all the things that she's very passionate about. I mean, she's one person, but she's connected with many, many people, and that's what we have to do is as public as voters, as public people that are that are the public, that are the voters, because otherwise we're never gonna get change. So, did you have any other questions you wanted to ask me?
Oh yeah. Well, no, I was also gonna say appreciate that. Definitely is that. I also think that you, as always, definitely shared some tremendous things, and definitely shed light on a lot of great things that need deserve that attention, and are you're working towards. And I think it's just amazing too because since we did make that connection with children and all of that, I agree. I think that it's, an incredible loss, and I'm so, grateful that the mom has you as, support and being able to, help with what we can do now, because unfortunately that child should definitely still be here. And so it's just very unfortunate that they are not. But I think also even with your own children, I think it was just great that you mentioned, despite the fact that they went through something very traumatic, and I'm glad you also shed light on ACEs in case, everyone isn't aware of that. I know we had Dr. Greg Williams, who also was great, talked about that also once on the show before, but that despite the fact that they faced all of that, I'm glad that even though they might have faced some, some of that trauma and some of that abandonment, like you mentioned, they're definitely getting ferociously chosen by you, though. So I definitely think that their mom, like, no matter what you're doing, whether it's trial and error, and I know you said that maybe you don't do it perfectly, I think, you show up for them, first of all, by being there for them, you know what I mean, and choosing them. And I feel like sometimes we think too that, it's easier to just keep our children, and other things. But what's really healthy is, like we said, moving to a healthier place for ourselves, and then ultimately doing what we can for them as well. And so, like, sometimes that's, making that courageous but also very difficult decision to leave other things behind, but being able to help them as you can, and, moving them forward. So I think it's just great the work that you're doing outside of that, but even also personally, just, as a mother, and like being able to, do what you can, both personally and professionally. So I think it's just, incredible work. And I just wanted to also, give kudos to that as well. But I agree. I definitely think it's amazing how we're able to do that, and that, we can shed light on that, because I agree. I do think it's, unfortunately, collateral damage that happens. Not only do children deserve more of that awareness, but also they're used a lot by abusers, as manipulative
As
tools, like during the abuse.
pawns, as pawns.
Exactly. Absolutely. And they shouldn't be. They have whole lives. They are living human beings. But unfortunately, abusers don't see them as such. They see them as, tools, as like you said, pawns. And so, it's just part of a game, unfortunately, for them that they are playing in their way. And so, I'm just glad that there are people like you who are fighting against that. And I also love that you mentioned you actually mention, or like, categorize advocacy as a self-care tool. So it can be like, it actually, it energizes, you're able to put your passion into it, and it's such a great way to funnel something that was so negative that happened to you into something so positive. Like, now you can show up for others, you can do all of it. And so with that, that's kind of what I want to make sure we also give some more light to, is like what that looks like, how you've been doing that. And even with your book, I know you say you don't want to promote it. I just want to know what it meant for you to even be starting it. Like you said, apparently it was a big step. So I'm just curious, like, how all of that fits in. What are you hoping to do in the future, even beyond the book? Like, just, what else does this world look like for you on the other side as an advocate and as a survivor?
Well, as far as my book goes, I hope that it's a learning tool for those that either have been through what I've been through and can see themselves in the book and also learn from it, obviously. And for those that have never been through domestic violence or dealt with a narcissist, um, learn all the information. Like I said, I'm constantly learning. I watched a documentary, an incredible documentary, by this woman who just decided she was asked to go film a specific woman and who went through domestic violence. She was in her 80s when she went to go do this, and it ended up into this whole huge documentary. And then at the end, there was a panel, and on that panel, you had a lot of professionals, and I was listening actually to uh, like young adult women, girls, survivors, twin sisters, and they were talking about ACEs. And I was like, oh my gosh, I never heard that word. And I'm doing advocacy for like 5 years. I'm like, or 4 years, whatever it is. And I'm like, I've never heard. And, and then I start to cry. I was like, my kids probably have a high score, and then I saw some of the questions, and it's heartbreaking. But like I said, my point was that I'm constantly learning. If I see a trauma course online, how I can help my adult children, I'll take it, even though a lot of it I know. um, I'm just constantly learning new different things. And again, until I started doing my own show, I didn't really, I heard horror stories about family court. And I probably would have had one had my ex not picked up and left, had just come out of jail when we had our last final mediation, and left the state. I would have, and the original judge we started with would have stayed on the bench because he was removed. He went actually to different court, not to family court, because he was horrific. So I had a little taste of it for 2 minutes. Um, but until I started doing my own show, and I had Marianne on, and some other women who went through horrific things, I was oblivious. But I did hear, like, people say to me, be careful when you go to family court because it could be really bad for women, especially here in Florida. And I was like, oh, I'm not worried. My ex is crazy, blah blah blah, whatever. And you know, when I started seeing more and more cases up close, and I do have one of my, high school friends who went through it and lost her kids, and um, you know, her ex married a psychopath and uses the kids as pawns to hurt her. And so I know that it's you have the abuse and the coercive control and all that on both sides, and using children as pawns on both sides. Um, but as far as physical violence, you probably have more men committing physical violence, although um, there are many women that have murdered their children. And I had this argument, or not this argument, but you know, there was a story recently in the news, that in Italy, that man that killed his son and left him, stuffed him in a closet and left a note for the mom. Did you see that story? No? Oh my gosh. Um, and I posted it in a couple of groups that I belong to, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, that's horrific," and the empathy for the child and for the mom. And this, like, one person piped up and like, well, "What did she do to make what did she do to make him do that or something?" And I was like, first of all, it was in a group that I have a lot of respect for. So all I said was, um, all I've seen here was a lot of empathy for the child and mom. And your comment just shows your character and who you are. And I'm not going to have this conversation with someone like you in this group who I respect. And I block. That's my, people that respond like that, you can tell right off the bat their problem. And then you have these extreme groups, yeah, on either side. And again, when you're extreme, you're showing character. And when you have that kind of character and there's no empathy, you're a problem. Because people that love their children want what's best for their children, and they're not fighting. And that's what I wanted. And I talked about it in the first first round with Miss Texas, how I begged my ex to work with me and be a parent and and all of that. And unfortunately, there are people that just can't get better. They just can't. And I've learned that over time in the hard way. And when you watch all these stories, you just see so much sickness and mental health, and you pray that we don't keep continuing this, because who's going to be our future? And that's the whole point of all of this. Our children and our children's children are going to be running in our lifetime, will be running the next generation. What are we going to have? A more worse world than we have now? I mean, it's horrific. I can't even imagine. I mean, I've never seen anything like the way things are now. How can it get worse? It's very scary to see that this is like I know this is a terrible thing to say, and I love my kids and I wouldn't trade them for anything. But if I was just starting out right now, I don't think I would have kids. This world is so crazy, and it's like seeing things up close and personal and witnessing it. And then you were saying how this has been very how I was saying how this has been very rewarding, and it's been my advocacy has been part of my mental health and all that. And yes, it's draining sometimes, and yes, but when you help people, it's really, you help yourself. But I look at the women who are still in it, and they're going out there and they're speaking and they're in pain. And the woman that lost her child, I mean, it's not even a year, and she spent so much. I mean, I've seen all the videos and the pictures and everything. She has spent, you could see it, her and her grandmother spent and her mother, I'm sorry, his grandmother, they were raising him. And then all of a sudden this man comes into the picture and says, oh, I want 50%. He's my kid. And he was awarded. And nobody gave a crap about all the stuff he put her through. 4 years. And, this has to change. And children are not pawns. They're our next generation of adults who will run this country. And we have to end all this horrific stuff, because I mean, they didn't choose to be brought into this world. We brought them into this world. And if we can't get along as parents, you know, then then it's not their fault. Like I always say, I have my conversations with God. What have my children ever done to deserve what they have been through or go through? It's unfair, and it's 6 years. And what did that little boy, 4.5, or the 9-month-old baby last week that was murdered, or the one little boy in Italy? And these are just the stories that I've seen recently that are popping up. What did they ever do wrong? I mean, they're innocent. They're babies, they're little kids. And I don't care their age. They don't deserve to be used as your tool or weapon to hurt somebody else. And remember, you're hurting their parent, the mother, in my case, or in these cases, because it goes both ways. It's the mother of your children. So how do you love your children but hate their mom? It doesn't work that way. But to hate a mom so much that you're willing to sacrifice your kids, but then judges are willing to give kids to these men. I don't know. Something's very broken.
And I definitely agree. But I think that's also why it's great that if there's going to be people that advocate, it's people like yourself, you know what I mean? With that conviction, but also that knowledge, and that, and also as a fellow parent. So, you know what I mean? Like, so it's not someone who's just going into this blindly. And I don't completely, I mean, as a fellow parent, I also don't completely disagree with what you said. I do think that this world is a scary place, but I think that, since the children are here, you know what I mean? And since we are having to raise them,
Yes.
I think it is great that, we can do like what you're doing. You know what I mean? And so like that we do try to help them, as much as we can, we ferociously protect them as much as possible, but that we do try to help others. others, because we do realize that things are broken. We do realize that a change needs to take place. And we do realize that if we don't say anything, like everyone else has been doing, that that's not gonna, it's not gonna help things to progress at all. So I think that it's just great that, you realize that, you see that, and you've done nothing but dedicate your time to help with that. And I think, of course, it's admirable, but it's also just, incredible, and also just necessary, honestly, given where we are in our world. So I'm just glad that, you are doing that, and that it's someone like you who's doing it, who gets it, you know what I mean? And not somebody, else who's just trying to run, their own agenda in
Yeah.
regards to that.
Yeah, everybody that I know that's involved in this is doing it, is giving their time, and a lot of them are co-parenting, so they have their time, and with their busy schedules, and a lot of them are professionals. And again, this is it's happening. I'm seeing this right now in Florida. It's been going on in California already quite some time, in other states quite some time. But a lot of these people are don't have their some people don't have their kids, but a lot of them are between their jobs, the professional jobs, and the time they have with their kids, they're still finding time to get their voices heard, because we all see um, how very important the this matter is. And again, if we don't keep pushing for change,
Right.
who else is going to do it? It's not going to
Absolutely.
happen. So that's so, those are the things that I've been very passionately involved in. And it's really, I look in the last 15 months, what I I haven't had a chance to really think about it until I was watching um the prior show I did, and just wanting to see where I left off and what I was doing at the time. And I was doing a podcast for another um on a different platform for other organization. And it wasn't, I got a lot of experience out of it, and I learned a lot, but the topic was very focused on one specific topic. Although I was a guest on there, and um, Eileen was a guest on there, and Marianne was a guest on there. I met so many amazing people on there, and we're still really close. And but you know, the topic was very focused on one thing. And you know there's so much happening out there, and I wanted to have a broader topic. I mean, I have had on my show, one of my coaches at my gym, you know um she had a story, and then how fitness helped her, and because, and I relate to her in that, because that's my outlet, working out. And so, I had her on my show. I've had my gun trainer on my show. He's also a coach at my gym. And, for, I don't own a gun right now. I have a license, but it was very powerful, very empowering for me to, I was petrified of guns. And until my children are mentally healthy, even though you can have a gun and it could be locked up in a safe, I don't want to have one in my home yet. And I've been doing lessons for quite some time. Um, and if I have one, I want to be able to carry it, and I don't feel comfortable yet. But like I said, I had him on my show to help empower people, you know. So I've had different kinds, I try to focus again, when it's um, the title of the month, I try to focus on that, those subjects. So obviously, Domestic Violence Awareness Month was huge for me. This month is very big for me. Um, so there's so many different topics that I like to cover, and it's been rewarding, and it's been empowering, and it's when people thank you, and you made an impact on their life. And I do a lot of like social media posting and stuff like that, um and just memes and different things. And when someone says, "Oh, I need to hear that. I need to see that," you know, and vice versa, you become a huge family and a network. And that's that, and we empower each other. That's what advocating is really about. It's really empowering one another to do what we're doing. And you were asking me before, one of the what else do I do with my advocating? So there's one mom right now that her ex-husband has not been following the parent plan, and she goes to pick up her daughter, and her daughter doesn't come. And it's been going on months and months and months, and I've been there as a witness recording it, and I helped her navigate with the police system. Um, and that was very empowering for me because I was able to show her all the things, all the mistakes they make, and how to get done what you need to get done. And she was so thankful. So so that and now every time she goes, whether I'm with her or I'm a witness um, to what goes on, so it could be documented. I've been helping her a lot with that, and she's also one of our people, one of our Florida protected, and she's going through hell. She hasn't had her child in 4 months. Her child is only 11, and we've seen her from a distance, and she's unhealthy looking. She's not in school. She's has been diagnosed in the past with anorexia and depression and anxiety, and she's locked up in a home. And the courts keep allowing her ex to push off his contempt date. I mean, it's just like unbelievable. It's like, how does this happen? But on the other hand, you have these women who are handing kids over every month, every week, half a week to abusers, and there's proof of it, and nobody cares. So it's just like, this is just what I'm seeing and I'm living in, and it's happening all over the world, all over the United States, and we live in the United States, right? It doesn't feel like it. When I watch this stuff, it doesn't feel like it. It's
And
just,
so it does mean that the work, yeah, as a result, I agree that the work is never ending. But that's why also, I'm just glad that, again, given the opportunity, you're rising up to the occasion and being able to be there for them when other people are not, and that being able to be present in a system that, deserves to have more voices, because if we're going to have those other voices, it's great to have empowering voices in the midst of that, like yours, and that other individuals can have support like yours. And so what I wanted to be able to do too was just to be able to let people know, with all this work that you're doing, all the passion that you have for it, how can folks connect with you? I know you mentioned a website, all of that.
yes. So I started a website. Well, my thanks to my writer who helped me to get it done. It's still in the process. I mean, it's up there, and I've been uploading my shows little by little because it's a lot of shows. Um, so it's TheNeverGiveUpShow.com. And on there, you can send me an email. You can see some testimonials of people that I have been on my show or I've helped. Some of the stuff I've done in, the videos or when I received the proclamation. And it's like I said, we just put it up there because I needed a way for people to be able to find me, reach me. I try to be very cautious on Facebook who I accept because I still have a stalker out there. I'm on LinkedIn, Bailey Smith. I do have an Instagram, The Never Give Up Show, that's opened. And then, just to go on to the website and send me an email. And then there's family facts. Families Against Court Travesties has a Facebook page, and Florida Protective Parents has a Facebook page, and you could reach out if you would like to start one of those organizations in your state. They will help you because we'd like to see it across the United States in every state. As I said, there are some, and the more we have of these kind of groups, the more we're going to just keep bringing people together, and the more we come together, the more powerful we become, and that's where we're
Absolutely.
at. So
Yay. Thank you. So yeah, and of course with that, we can definitely have you on for 3, 4, or 5 shows. However, I definitely, I definitely want to at least, I'm just glad we at least get in there, like with, I'm just glad that, you have all these upcoming projects. I'm glad you gave us an opportunity to find a way that we can connect with you further. And I definitely do hope people reach out and that not only do they never give up, but that they also support your Never Give Up show. And so definitely, absolutely. So as always, it was a pleasure to have you. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for everything you shared. And yes, thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
You too.